There are essentially two ways people view the world, and this fundamental perspective shapes everything they do and everything they achieve. Some individuals are gifted with the vision to focus intensely and exclusively on the goal they want to achieve, that prize at the end of the journey. Others, however, can only see the obstacles, the barriers, the endless things standing directly in their way that prevent them from grasping the thing they ultimately desire. This split in perception is a defining feature of how we approach life, work, and every challenge in between. There's a wonderful old story that perfectly illustrates this difference: the tale of two lumberjacks. Every single morning, these two men would start chopping wood at the exact same time, and every day without fail, they would stop their work at the same time. Yet, there was one peculiar difference. One of the lumberjacks would disappear for about an hour right in the middle of the day. And still, despite that hour-long break, he would consistently chop more wood than the other man. This baffling phenomenon continued for months. Finally, the one who worked straight through the day, from sunrise to sunset, confronted him. He was completely perplexed. "I just don't understand," he said, frustration clear in his voice. "We start at the same time, we stop at the same time, you take a full hour off in the middle of the day, and you still somehow chop more wood than I do. Where do you go for that hour?" The other lumberjack simply looked up, smiled, and replied with a profound simplicity that contained all the wisdom in the world. "Oh, I go home and sharpen my axe." The lesson here is profound and applies far beyond the woods. If you adopt what is called an infinite mindset, a mindset focused on endurance and long-term vitality, the goal isn't just about how much frantic activity you can generate or how much you can get done in a single day. The true measure of success is how much you can accomplish over the course of an entire career, over the arc of a full lifetime. You cannot burn the candle at both ends indefinitely and expect to sustain peak performance. You absolutely must take time to sharpen your axe. This doesn't just mean getting enough sleep, though that is vital. It means truly disconnecting. It means taking real restorative vacations where you turn off your email, silence your phone completely, and make the conscious choice to be unavailable to the office and its demands. Go sharpen your axe, recharge your spirit, and maintain your edge. If you don't, your hard work will be for nothing. As you embark on this journey to find and ignite your own unique spark, I have 5 simple foundational rules for you to follow. The first rule is, go after the things you want. Let me share a quick story from a run I took with a friend in Central Park. The New York Road Runners organization often hosts weekend races, and it's common for a sponsor to be giving away free items at the finish line. Maybe apples, protein bars, or on this particular day, free bagels. When my friend and I reached the end of the run, there were picnic tables set up. On one side stood the volunteers, and on the tables were large, enticing boxes overflowing with bagels. On the other side, though, was a long, discouraging line of runners waiting patiently for their free prize. I turned to my friend and said, full of anticipation, "Let's go get a bagel." He looked at the length of the queue and his enthusiasm immediately deflated. "Ah, the line's too long," he replied. I tried to persuade him, holding on to the simple truth of the situation. "Free bagel." He doubled down. "I don't want to wait in line." I pushed again, perhaps a little louder. "It's a free bagel." He just shook his head. "Now let's skip it. It's too long." It was at that exact moment that the profound difference in how we perceive the world crystallized for me. Some people see only the wonderful thing they want to have, and some people only see the massive obstacle, the line that prevents them from getting it. I could only see the bagels. He could only see the line. So I didn't join the queue. I walked straight up to the side of the table, leaned in between 2 people, put my hand directly into the box and pulled out 2 bagels. And guess what? No one got mad at me. They were surprised perhaps, but not angry. The simple unspoken rule in life is this: you are absolutely free to go after whatever you want. You just cannot, under any circumstances, deny anyone else the right to go after what they want. The crucial takeaway here is that you don't have to wait in line. You don't have to do things the way everybody else has always done them. You are allowed to be creative. You are allowed to find a better, faster, or more efficient path. You can do it your way. You can break the conventional rules, provided you never stand in the way of somebody else achieving their dreams. Find your own shortcut. Create your own solution. The second rule is, take care of each other. Let's turn our attention to the United States Navy SEALs, who are perhaps the most elite and capable warriors in the entire world. A SEAL instructor was once asked a revealing question. Who is the type of person that actually makes it through the grueling, infamous selection process known as Basic Underwater Demolition/SEAL, BUD/S? Who is able to earn the trident? He paused, then offered a brilliant answer. I can't tell you the precise kind of person that becomes a SEAL, he said. But I can absolutely tell you the kind of people who don't make it through. He explained that the huge, muscular guys covered in tattoos who show up wanting to prove to the world how tough they are. None of them make it through. The preening, arrogant leaders who like to delegate all their responsibility and never actually do any of the hard, unpleasant work themselves. None of them make it through. The star college athletes who have cruised through life and have never truly been tested to the absolute core of their being. None of them make it through. He noted that some of the guys who do make it through are skinny and scrawny. He added that you will sometimes see the guys who eventually graduate shivering uncontrollably out of pure fear. But they all share one critical, non-negotiable trait. When they find themselves physically spent, emotionally drained, and when they honestly have nothing left to give, somehow, some way, they are able to dig deep down inside to find just enough energy to help the guy next to them. They offer a hand, a word of encouragement, a shared burden. Those are the ones who become SEALs. He said, if you want to be an elite warrior, it's not ultimately about how tough you are, how smart you are, or how fast you are. If you want to be an elite warrior, you had better get really, really good at helping the person to your left and helping the person to your right. That, he emphasized, is how people truly advance in the world. The challenges we face today are too dangerous, too complex, and too difficult for you to ever think that you can accomplish everything alone. If you have successfully found your spark, I commend you for that incredible achievement. Now, the next step is this: who are you going to ask for help, and when are you finally going to accept help when it is offered to you? Learn that essential skill by practicing helping each other. It will be the single most valuable lesson you ever master in your entire life. The ability to accept help graciously when it's offered, and the courage to ask for it when you know you simply cannot do it by yourself. The amazing discovery you will make is that the moment you learn to ask for help, you will realize that there are people all around you who have always wanted to help. They just didn't think you needed it, because you were busy pretending that you had everything perfectly under control. The minute you have the courage to say, I don't know what I'm doing, or I'm stuck and scared, or I don't think I can do this, you will find that lots of people who love you will rush in to take care of you and lift you up. But that emotional safety net will only appear if you learn to consistently take care of them first. The third rule is, be the last to speak. Nelson Mandela is a particularly special case study in the world of leadership, because he is universally, globally regarded as a great leader. You can take many other political personalities, and depending on which nation you visit, you will hear wildly different opinions about them. But Nelson Mandela, across every corner of the world, is regarded as an extraordinary, inspirational leader. He was actually the son of a tribal chief, and he was once asked how he learned the principles of great leadership. He responded by recalling going with his father to tribal meetings when he was a boy. He remembered two distinct things from those gatherings. First, they would always sit in a perfect circle. And second, his father, the chief, was always the last person to speak. All your life you will be told that you need to learn to listen, which is true. But I would argue that you need to upgrade that advice. You need to learn to be the last to speak. I witness this failing in boardrooms every single day of the week. Even people who genuinely consider themselves good leaders will walk into a room and immediately say, here's the problem, here's what I think, but I'm interested in your opinion, so let's go around the room. It's already too late. By offering their opinion first, they have tainted the well, making it almost impossible for others to disagree or offer a truly original perspective. The critical skill, the discipline, to hold your opinions to yourself until everyone else has finished speaking accomplishes two immensely valuable things. First, it gives every single person in the room the genuine feeling that they have been deeply heard, and that they have contributed something meaningful. Second, you get the enormous benefit of hearing every single thought, every perspective, and every piece of information before you ever render your own opinion. The discipline is truly to keep your opinions quiet. If you agree with somebody, do not nod yes. If you disagree with somebody, do not shake your head no. Simply sit there, absorb every piece of information, and the only thing you are allowed to do is ask clarifying questions so that you can understand not just what they mean but why they hold the opinion that they do. You must understand the place, the perspective from where they are speaking. And then, at the very end, you will get your turn. Sounds easy, but it is incredibly difficult to do in practice. You must practice being the last to speak. That's what Nelson Mandela did. And it helped make him one of the greatest leaders in human history. The fourth rule is, take accountability. In the 18th century, something terrible spread across Europe and eventually made its way to America called puerperal fever. It was also infamously known as the Black Death of childbed. Essentially, women who gave birth would contract this fever and die within 48 hours. This Black Death was the scourge of Europe for over a century, and it only got worse. In some hospitals, the mortality rate was as high as 70% of women who gave birth. This was the Renaissance, the time of empirical data, science, and reason. Mysticism and tradition were being cast aside. These were men of science, highly educated doctors, and they wanted desperately to study and find the definitive reason for this Black Death. So, they set about their scientific work. They would study the corpses of the women who had died, conducting autopsies in the morning. Then, in the afternoon, they would go and deliver babies and finish their patient rounds. It wasn't until the mid-1800s that a brilliant man named Dr. Oliver Wendell Holmes realized that these doctors who were conducting autopsies in the morning were not washing their hands, not sterilizing them, before they went to deliver babies in the afternoon. He pointed out the obvious and shocking truth. Guys, you're the problem. And they ignored him. They ridiculed him. They called him crazy for 30 long years, during which countless women died needlessly. Finally, somebody realized the profound simplicity of his observation. If they simply washed their hands and sterilized their instruments, the disease would go away. And that is exactly what happened. When they started sterilizing and washing, the Black Death of childbed completely disappeared. The lesson here is profound and applies directly to leadership in life. Sometimes you are the problem. My point is that you must take complete accountability for your actions, your outcomes, and your environment. You are entitled to take all the credit in the world for the things you do right, as long as you also take full, unflinching responsibility for the things you do wrong. It must be a balanced equation. You don't get it one way and not the other. You only get to take credit when you also take accountability. I'll give you a modern example of accountability in culture. A few months ago, I stayed at the Four Seasons in Las Vegas. It is a truly wonderful hotel. But the reason it is wonderful is not because of the fancy beds. Any hotel can buy a fancy bed. The reason it is wonderful is because of the people who work there. If you walk past an employee at the Four Seasons and they say hello to you, you get the genuine feeling that they wanted to say hello. It's not because somebody told them. You have to greet every single customer and guest. You can feel that they actually care. In their lobby, they have a small coffee stand. One afternoon, I went to buy a cup of coffee, and the barista serving me was a young man named Noah. Noah was fantastic. He was friendly, fun, and completely engaging with me. I had such a positive experience that I think I gave him a 100% tip. He was that wonderful. As is my nature, I asked him, "Noah, do you like your job?" Without skipping a beat, Noah said, "I love my job." I followed up, "What is it that the Four Seasons is doing that makes you say, 'I love my job'?" And this is where he spoke the magic. He said, "Throughout the day, managers will walk past me. Not just my manager, any manager. And they will stop to ask me how I'm doing, and if there is anything I need to do my job better." Then he offered the brilliant contrast. "I also work at Caesar's Palace. At Caesar's Palace, the managers are only trying to make sure we're doing everything right. They are constantly trying to catch us when we do things wrong. When I go to work there, I like to keep my head under the radar, just get through the day and collect my paycheck. Here at the Four Seasons, I feel I can be myself." We in leadership are constantly criticizing the people. We're always saying, "I've got to get the right people on the bus," or "I need to fix my team." But the reality is, it's not the people. It's the leadership and the environment we create. If we create the right environment, we will get people like Noah at the Four Seasons. If we create the wrong environment, a fearful, punitive one, we will get people like Noah at Caesar's Palace. The fifth and final rule, and my favorite one of all, is you deserve a Styrofoam cup. This is a true story. There was a former Undersecretary of Defense who was invited to give a speech at a large conference of about 1,000 people. He was standing on the stage, holding a simple styrofoam cup of coffee. He took a sip, smiled, looked down at the cup, and then went completely off script. You know, he began, last year I spoke at this exact same conference. Last year I was still the undersecretary. When I spoke here then, they flew me here business class. When I arrived at the airport, somebody was waiting for me, a driver, to take me to my hotel. They had already checked me in. And they took me straight up to my room. The next morning I came downstairs, and someone was waiting in the lobby to greet me. They drove me to this exact venue and handed me a beautiful cup of coffee in a fine ceramic cup. He held up the Styrofoam cup for the audience to see. I am no longer the undersecretary. I flew here, coach. I took a taxi to my hotel and I checked myself in. When I came down to the lobby this morning, I took another taxi to this venue, came in the front door and found my own way backstage. When I asked someone, "Do you have any coffee?" He pointed to the machine in the corner, and I poured myself a cup of coffee into this here Styrofoam cup. He paused, then delivered the unforgettable punchline. The lesson is, the ceramic cup was never meant for me. It was meant for the position I held. I deserve a Styrofoam cup. Remember this as you climb the ladder of success. As you gain fame, as you acquire fortune, as you are given position and seniority, people will absolutely treat you better. They will hold doors open for you. They will fetch you a cup of tea or coffee without you even asking. They will call you sir and ma'am, and they will give you special treatment. None of that special treatment is meant for you, the individual. That stuff is meant for the position you hold. It is meant for the level of success, leadership, or achievement that you have reached. But you, the human being, the essence of who you are, will always deserve a Styrofoam cup. Remember that powerful lesson in humility and gratitude. You can accept all the free stuff, you can accept all the perks. Absolutely, you can enjoy them. But just be profoundly grateful for them. And know deep down that they are not for you. We are now asking our youngest generation to work harder, to succeed, to find themselves, to build their confidence, to overcome their addiction to technology, and to build strong, meaningful relationships at work. We are demanding all of this, and yet these are the environments we, the senior leaders, have created. We keep saying to them, "You're the future leaders," while making it clear through our actions that we are the leaders now and we are still in control. What exactly are we doing? This brings us back to the core idea of empathy. Empathy means looking at the situation and concluding that if an entire generation is struggling, if they are disengaged, anxious, or unhappy, maybe it's not just them. Maybe it's us. It's like saying, you know, the only common factor in all my failed relationships is me. It's the same thing when a company says, "Oh, we just can't get the right performance out of our people." Maybe it's you. It's not a difficult or hard to understand generation. It's not them. They are human beings just like the rest of us, trying to find their way in the world, and trying to work in a place where they feel that someone genuinely cares about them as a person. By the way, that is what we all want. In other words, this isn't even truly generational. It's a universal human desire. This is the ongoing practice of empathy. If we are struggling to communicate with someone, or if we are struggling to help someone be at their natural best, we have to look at ourselves. I am tired of people saying to me, "How do I get the best out of my people?" They are not a towel that you just wring out for maximum performance. The real question is, how do I help my people be at their natural best? We are failing to ask these questions. We are not practicing empathy. We have to start there, by practicing empathy and truly relating to what they may be going through. Doing so will profoundly change the decisions we make. It will profoundly change the way we see the world. We are growing up in a Facebook and Instagram world. In other words, we are brilliant at putting filters on things. We are highly skilled at showing people that life is amazing, even though we may be deeply depressed or struggling behind the scenes. Consequently, everybody sounds tough and everybody sounds like they have everything figured out. The reality is that there is very little actual toughness, and most people, especially in leadership, do not have it figured out. When senior people say, "Well, what should we do?" they often speak with confidence when they have no clue, creating a cycle of false certainty. So, you have an entire generation growing up with lower self-esteem than previous generations. We know that engaging with social media and our cell phones releases a chemical called dopamine. That is why when you get a text or a notification, it feels good. That's why we count the likes. That's why we go back 10 times to see if our Instagram is growing. The trauma for young kids of being unfriended is the withdrawal from that hit. Dopamine is the exact same chemical that makes us feel good when we smoke, when we drink, and when we gamble. In other words, it is a highly addictive chemical. That is basically what has happened. You have an entire generation that has unfettered access to an addictive, numbing chemical dopamine through social media and cell phones, right as they are going through the high stress and emotional turbulence of adolescence. Why is this important? Because by allowing this unfettered access to dopamine-producing devices and media, it is becoming hardwired into their stress response. As they grow older, we are seeing too many young adults who simply don't know how to form deep, meaningful relationships. Those are their words, not mine. They will admit that many of their friendships are superficial. They will admit that they don't count on their friends, they don't rely on them. They have fun, but they know their friends will cancel on them if something better comes along. Deep, meaningful relationships are not there because they never practiced the necessary social skill set. And worse, they don't have the necessary coping mechanisms to deal with stress. So when significant stress shows up in their lives, the normal unavoidable stress of adulthood, they are not turning to a person for comfort, support, and advice. They are turning to a device. They are turning to social media. They are turning to these things which offer only temporary relief and deepen the underlying problem. I believe with all my heart that loving your work is a right, and not a privilege that must be earned. I lament, I despise, and I curse the fact that so few people get to say, I love my job, as if they have won some impossible lottery. You go out with your friends and somebody says, I love my job, and everybody else goes, oh my God, you are so lucky. That to me is madness. The vast majority of people should get to wake up and say, I love my job. It is a fundamental right. We should demand it. We should demand that our leaders provide an environment in which we want to come to work, where we want to care about each other, and where we feel safe to express our vulnerabilities, our fears, and our concerns without fear of punishment. An environment where we are open to correction and discipline and feedback, because we know that it is being given to help us improve and grow, which is what we fundamentally want to do. And in turn, we will help others improve and grow. Because when we feel safe, when we feel that our leaders care more about us than a mere number, when they care more about our lives, our confidence, our joy, and our skill set more than some immediate short-term gain, when they care more about our priorities than the priorities of some distant, disinterested external constituency, then we will respond in kind. We will offer our blood, our sweat, and our tears. We will make sacrifices of all kinds to see that our leader's vision is advanced, and that this company continues to thrive. Not for them but for ourselves. It becomes deeply personal, and it becomes something we love contributing to. I talk about this all the time, and it is the only equation you ever need to remember in life and work. Working hard for something we don't care about is called stress. Working hard for something we love is called passion.